Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jill. Welcome. This is day 3. We're getting into our poppies today, and I'm so excited about this painting for a couple of different reasons. One, we're going to talk about a strategy today that really helps you to keep your vibrant colors vibrant even in the shadows. Okay, sometimes we run into a problem with that when we're painting flowers, especially. Most flowers are going to have a really vibrant tone, and when we start trying to get into those areas where we need to, render some shadows or some shading, we tend to get a little bit muddy and a little bit lost, and it becomes dull and dark, and we lose that vibrancy. So we're going to talk about that today, and I hope I'm going to be able to share some good things with you that'll help you overcome those challenges. Okay, so welcome everybody. We're going to get into it today. Shared a couple of things with you in the group earlier. Actually, this morning I found out just by accident that Trekell, that's the good folks who make several of the brushes that I use, but they're little pinstriping brushes and detail brushes. They're 65% off this weekend. I couldn't believe it. That's a huge sale. So I think I'm going to go in there and maybe get a few extra for myself, but I wanted to pass that along so that you would know it's a fantastic way to get a hold of the brushes. They're really affordable anyway, but with 65% off, you just can't really beat that. So I hope that'll help out some of you to get a hold of some of those brushes. They're super, super great. Also, there is, I shared a couple of links in the group earlier that were just links to yesterday's video and Friday's video. Facebook really makes things confusing, and if you've been in a Facebook group before where there's a live like this, all of that video and photo information, it just sort of gets thrown into the back of a closet is what it feels like, and then you can't ever find anything again. And so no matter how many times we try to sort of arrange these things and keep them in folders, it still becomes difficult to find. So I wanted to just reassure everybody that, the videos, the replays are, they're inside the group right now. If you can find them inside either the videos folder or the photos folder, but once the workshop has concluded, all of these videos are going to be moved over to my website in the password protected area for you to log in, and you're going to be able to view those videos at any time, as many times as you want. Okay, so don't worry about that. It's going to be there for you. So I apologize for any, difficulties in finding, the stuff that we're working on, but it is there. So I wanted to just kind of do a couple of things right here before we get started. First of all, I've got several new members that have joined my membership. I am so super excited about that. You guys, you just don't realize how meaningful and how awesome that is. That totally makes it possible for me to continue doing what I do and providing quality content, both in a free environment and a paid environment, because if I'm kind of not making a living at this, then I don't get to do it at all. And so I'm so just eternally grateful. It just makes me just light up whenever somebody new comes in, because it means that I get to keep doing this and providing good things for you guys out there. I love watching watercolorists just try to hone their craft. They get in there and they get serious about it, and they want to work on it, and they follow teachers, and they follow videos, and they read books, and they do all the things. They're in there doing the work, and so many of you are a huge part of that wonderful community, and I love being able to continue my journey with you in that environment. So I'm so excited about getting to work with you over the next year. It's going to be fantastic. And for those of you who are wondering, I thought I would take just a little bit of time right here at the top of the class just to kind of share a little bit about my own journey and what's going on with me right now. I'm sort of in this building right now, conducting the live class, and I've got some connections here, and so some folks have been gracious to let me come in and do the class because they've got super awesome internet that's really stable and all that good stuff. But traditionally, historically, over the course of my, the membership, as long as it has been in existence, I have always done live classes, on a weekly basis. But since I've started traveling full time, which was April of last year, so I'm coming into, getting close to being a year, living in our bus full time, I've had to really change things up just because, the internet issue is definitely an issue. So all of the instruction that I have been doing pretty much for the last few months has been pre-recorded, but it is a brand new lesson that comes to you every single week. There's 4 lessons for each month, and I've been just pre-recording those to make sure that you've got a good quality video, good content, but it's still me giving you something fresh every single month. And I've just been kind of uploading those in a big batch, or almost an entire batch for the month, but you definitely get those, and they're there for you. And of course, all of the videos that have come before that, you have access to those as well. So lots of good things are coming up for me as we start to move. We're going to start heading west in April. I've got in-person workshops that I'm scheduling, as well as continuing with my online community. And one of our first stops is in Kansas. I've got a workshop. I've got to be there later here just in a few weeks. In April, I'll be out there doing a workshop, and then I've got another workshop out in California in May. And so I'm continuing to, put some dates on the calendar and that type of thing. And we're just really looking forward to getting to just be out on the road, out west, traveling, seeing some new places, seeing some new things, and seeing some absolutely gorgeous new landscapes. And that's going to be playing a huge role in what's going on in the membership. So there's going to be a lot of exciting new opportunities to see some new landscapes. You guys are getting to kind of come along the ride with me, and we'll get to share in some of those experiences together. It's going to be a lot of fun. So as we get into the lesson today, I want to let you know that I've got a couple of bonus videos that I'm going to be sharing with you, at least 2 that I'm going to be sharing with you and making that available to you, to everybody here in the group for just a limited time. As a member, you would have access to these and so much more all the time, but I think these are going to be really helpful. I want to share some information about some brushwork, some value studies, and also the other thing is along the lines of what we're going to be doing today, and that's learning how to add some value and deepening your values, but keeping your colors vibrant. So I've got a whole video on that specifically that I'm going to get to share with you. So I think that's going to be beneficial for you guys. So I'll be kind of releasing those over the next few days. And if anybody has questions about membership, that's going to be open until the end of the month, and you can pay by the year, you can pay by the month. I've got a couple of different ways to do that. So let's go ahead and start jumping into today's lesson. And the poppies, the poppies are a lot of fun because they're just really bright. And if you've ever tried to paint flowers before, one of the things that kind of draws you to it to begin with is just that really vibrant color. And then one of the things that happens is that we start to lose that vibrant color. And it happens because our colors just get a little bit too muddy. And especially with watercolor, because they're transparent and we can see all the layers underneath, if we don't kind of layer properly, then we can kind of lose that vibrancy. And especially when we start to darken our colors for some of those shadow areas, those are the ones that get really muddy and cause us to kind of lose that vibrant tone. And so that's what we're going to get into today, is how to avoid that. So as springtime is rolling around and all those beautiful blossoms and blooms start happening, I want you to have some tricks in your bag so that you feel confident that you can go out there and really start working with that. Okay? All right, so let's just take a minute to look at the photo and talk about it for just a second. So we've got this vivid orange, and we've also got a lot of vivid greens going on. There's this photo has kind of been doctored, I think, maybe a little bit. It's super high chroma, very high intense, high key color. And I want to keep that vibrant orange and work with that color palette, but for the greens, I might kind of tone them down just a little bit so that they're a little softer and not competing quite so much with that orange. I want to definitely keep as much vibrancy as I can with those blossoms. And if you notice, out in the sort of the background, I guess if you want to think about it that way, behind the flowers, we've got this sort of that bokeh effect, you know, that really soft camera effect, that what do they call that, depth of field effect, where everything is sort of blurry, but we can tell that there are more flowers, there's more vegetation, there's more, you know, whatever flora going on, you know, out there in the background. So just want to show you some quick ways that make it easy to kind of handle that, and visually we know and can tell that there's more going on out there, but without getting into a lot of details. Okay, all right, so let's get over to the work area and go ahead and get started with things. I have got my little things set up here so that hopefully, there we go. All right, so I want to have you guys able to kind of see the picture, the mixing area, and the painting going all at the same time here. All right, so as we have done with several other things, we're just going to build up in layers, okay? All right, so I'm actually going to start out with this is my number 12 round. I'm going to start with that. And I'm actually going to kind of take my spritz bottle, and I'm just going to kind of spray the whole page, just a little spritz. And what I want to show you, I'm just going to hold it up. I kind of went over the whole page just to get some random droplets everywhere. It's not like a totally, completely wet page. Had a little air bubble under my board there. All right, so I want to come in here and really just lay in some base color. And I'm going to start with my greens actually, and then add those orange tones in. But I don't want to get any greens on my orange area. I'm going to kind of skip around that. I'm using a color right here. This is called Serpentine Green Genuine. It's a Daniel Smith color. And it's just this really nice sort of medium green that's kind of earthy, but one of the things that's really great about it has a nice granulating effect where you get some little red oxide little particulates that kind of show up in the mix. And I will use it here, but I'm also going to mix the color for you in case you don't have this. But I'm going to go ahead and lay this in. This is just sort of a nice medium tone, and I'm just going to kind of come into my drawing, and I'm just, you know, letting some of those water droplets that are there, they're kind of, you know, coming in contact with the pigment as I kind of get it down on the paper, but I'm being careful to stay away from my poppies. I don't want to put green in there. I'm just sort of working my way around, getting some green in there, establishing some layers, just like we've been talking about, you know, that idea of building up the layers so that we have all of these sort of layers working together, and being able to have some of the layers that are underneath maybe peek through just a little bit here and there. It just really makes for a nice, just that layering effect adds a little drama, sophistication to the brushwork. It's just a really nice approach to kind of handle that layering that way. All right, I'm going to clear out my brush, and I'm going to get into just a little bit of my Quin Gold because I want to, you know, kind of keep a little bit brighter tone kind of in the center and up toward the top half of the painting. I want there to be sort of a dynamic color shift where it's a little bit darker down here, but then the greens get a little bit lighter as we go. All right, let me mix like a version of that serpentine green. I'm going to start with just some of my Hansa yellow, and if maybe you've got some cad yellow, you could even use a little bit of that. And I'm going to get into my ultramarine blue, which is going to push everything into a nice green. Let me mix up a little bit more. I'm going to need more than that. So my Hansa yellow, my ultramarine blue, getting a nice sort of medium green. But this is a really cool green. It's really bluish green, and the serpentine, it's a little bit warmer. So I'm going to get just a little bit of my sienna. I'm using Quin sienna, but a burnt sienna could work as well. But see how it's pushing it? It's pushing it down into that olive again. See how it's nice and olive? Let's compare it again to the serpentine green just by itself. Get enough of it out here so we can kind of see it. Yeah, and I might have even gotten mine a little bit too warm. I'm just going to put a little bit of blue back into it to kind of cool it off again. So got a very similar color. There we go, pretty similar there. All right, so I'm going to use some of this that I've just mixed up, and I'm going to kind of bring it up into the top half of my painting. And I'm not being super picky or particularly careful. I'm just kind of getting this in here. And the only thing that I am kind of being mindful to manage is just not getting the green into my poppy shapes. I want to leave that nice white paper there so that when I get ready to put that orange in there, it's ready to take up some space there. One of the things that happens with, when you're applying your pigment to your paper at any point, the dry paper gives us a nice bite. That pigment goes in and just really bites into the paper and gives us a nice rich color. If the paper is a little bit damp, we get a little bit of moisture and it kind of dilutes the pigment a little bit. And in any case, both are fine, but sometimes if you want to get a little bit darker version of the color, it's better to go into some dry paper. All right, so while this background is still kind of wet, I'm going to come in with some different colors to give myself a little bit of variety of green. So I'm just mixing up some different yellows and greens, some brighter ones, and I'm coming in and almost just, coming in and deciding, here's some places where there might be some other little stems or stalks or other little shapes going on. I'm looking out here at my reference photo and just getting some little shapes in here. Again, skipping over my poppies. I don't want to interrupt what's going on there. I might even get some of my green gold just by itself and see how it can, I can even just make some little shapes and colors. I'm just making some variation. This is all this is about. Because this is going to serve me later when I get ready to come in and start defining some more shapes for my leaves and stems and all that kind of stuff. I'm already going to have some of these little shapes in here that give me that illusion of just busyness and that there's a lot of stuff going on out there in the background. See already how I've kind of got all these little linear shapes that are going to really lend themselves well later in the process to look like stems and leaves. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of, this is my orange. This is Permanent Orange by Daniel Smith. And in fact, let me go ahead and just clear out a little section of my palette here. I don't want any green to get into my orange, so I don't want to risk that. Let me just take the time to swipe that up. Now the Permanent Orange, it is very, very vivid, okay? And I'm kind of starting with that. And I accidentally got a little bit of blue on my palette. Let me use my right hand to clean this up. I definitely don't want any blue getting into my orange. I want that to stay nice and vivid. Okay, so, all right, sorry about that. I had to clean up my mess. All right, so nice vivid orange. Now, if you don't have a really vivid orange to begin with, orange, any of the really vivid colors, they're synthesized. The pigments, the natural pigments aren't quite like that. But let me show you a way that you could, if you don't have this vivid of an orange, you can take some of your yellow and a little bit of your hot pink, and you can mix those together to get a nice vivid orange. See how that's really pushing into just day glow almost. Okay, so that's another good way to kind of get those colors. All right, so I am going to use this orange, and I'm not going to use it by itself. I'm going to get some water in here, and I'm going to actually throw a little bit of hot pink into it to just really get a vivid tone here. But this is still pretty transparent. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come into my painting here, and I'm going to go ahead and just start laying this orange in. And it's going to kind of come in contact with some of the green edges here and there, and I'm totally okay with that. In fact, I'm encouraging maybe a little bit of movement to happen if some of this color wants to kind of bleed into the green, or maybe some of the green bleeds into the orange, you know, right there on the edge. I'm fine with that. I like that idea of those, of the edges. You know, the masters call that, you know, lost edge, where the foreground elements and the background elements kind of merge and mingle as they do in real life. As you're studying them and looking at them, nothing really has an outline on it. We have, you know, the objects that we look at, they sort of merge and blend into the background, giving us those soft shapes. Now, if you do have a little rogue action going on, I might mop that up. All right, this little poppy didn't really exist, but I kind of put him in there, but its center is visible, so I am going to kind of leave a little spot for that center. I've got a couple of poppies where the center is visible, and so I'm going to try to make sure I skip around that. But I'm just going through, again, no details right now. We're just establishing color, we're just establishing, blocking in basic shapes for our painting here. My orange is still holding up. If you didn't quite mix enough, I tell my students this often, if you don't have enough, just take the time to stop and mix up some more. I know we're all guilty of it. If you've ever painted a room, you know, in your house, and you don't want to go and fill up the tray again, you just mash that roller as hard as you can to just force some more paint out of it. But really, we need the pigment. So I'm kind of getting thin here. I'm going to get back into my orange to get some more, add the hot pink. There we go. See, I don't want anything to be diminished. I want to really get this color in here. This little poppy, well, no, it does, the center of it is visible in the photo. But you see how I'm working very loose here and allowing the merging of some of these colors. Now, again, you know, if you did have like a super rogue episode where it kind of really took off into the background, you could kind of control that a little bit with just some blotting. I do have some orange kind of moving into here, but I kind of like that. You know, there are still some of those poppies that they're out there in the background that we can't quite make them out, but I can see that there's just sort of this little, you know, maybe a little orange shape that's just sort of floating out there. Just random. You know, it's just a little pocket of color back there. And so see, those can be some of our little distant poppies that are kind of blurry out there in the background. Super nice and loose, all of that good stuff. And very vibrant. All right, so now I'm going to address the little centers. This is my Quin Gold. And I'm going to use the Quin Gold to come in here and kind of establish the center. I'm just using Quin Gold by itself at the moment. It will kind of push back that orange and give me some yellow right there. You can see how it's just pushing the orange away, and I'm left with just the yellow. The Quin Gold is really helpful in, in accommodating that sort of movement. It's really nice. And then I'm still going to take the Quin Gold, and I'm going to use it while my poppies are still kind of wet. Let's see, I might try to do this. Let me tilt my board just a little. I don't know if that makes it any easier to see. I'm just tilting my board slightly up just a little bit. But there are light areas around, some of the edges of the poppies. And I'm just using some of the Quin Gold to kind of come in there and sort of, it's almost like a highlight on the edges of some of these poppies. Ooh, I forgot that middle one right there. Just using the Quin Gold by itself. And as the Quin Gold continues to sit, see how it just keeps pushing the orange, and I'm left with that. And it's just such a beautiful transition. The Quin Gold is just excellent for that. Now, I've got a lot of loose edge happening here. No refinement. I'm really letting all the colors move, kind of have their way. And then we're going to come back with more layers to sort of refine and define, some of the different shapes that are going on. All right, so I've used my big brush to kind of establish a lot of shapes here and that type of thing. But I'm going to switch over to my little 1/4-inch dagger, okay, so that I can kind of control my moisture, control my paint a little bit. And I still have all this orange and yellow kind of here on my palette. I'm going to get into one of my other colors. This is Bloodstone Genuine, also a Daniel Smith color. And it is just by itself, it is sort of a charcoal gray color. But I'm throwing it sort of into this orange mixture. It's giving me a little bit of a brown. And I'm going to use that. There's sort of these little, they're not seed pods, but they're little blossoms, little poppy blossoms that haven't opened up yet. And I'm just kind of using that color to kind of come in here and grab some of those. And I'm putting it in here, and again, that background of green is still a little bit wet, and I'm okay with that. I'm gonna let that mingle and merge and move, and not fiddle and not fuss. Just allow the pigment to move and breathe, and the more you kind of begin to trust yourself in this process of, the paint will definitely move. It'll go places, as we know. I think Pam and I had that conversation one time that especially if you're used to painting with acrylics or oils, the paint is just, it's so obedient, it just stays wherever you put it. But with the watercolor, it is kind of like releasing a box of cats, and sometimes that's can be a little bit frustrating and can feel even a little bit maniacal sometimes. But if you love watercolor, you start to give it a chance and be just kind of willing to trust the process a little bit. All right, I'm using this this dark. I know that it's black, but I'm coming into the poppies and starting to get the tops of their stems just in a couple of places. See, this adds a little excitement and drama. I know that the poppy stems they're not black, they're not brown, but this is helping me to kind of establish a little bit of dominance for those stems, so that I can kind of find them and keep up with them later. And I've assigned value. It lets me kind of keep up with where that is. All right, while this is kind of sitting here, I want to start adding some more intense values and intense orange tones here, but everything's a little bit too wet. So let's dry what we have at this point, and then we're going to come back in and start building on this. So I will dry and mute this, and this will give you some time to catch up and dry. Okay, this has dried, and I'm also realizing that I'm not seeing the video. Let me just check on something right quick. I know that I'm live, but now I'm wondering if I've gone live somewhere else. Let's see if it'll show me. No, it won't show me. All right, hold on just a second. Bear with me, sorry about that. I'm still looking for the video. Bear with me, guys. If anybody can, oh, okay. All right, I'm seeing it now. You just never know. Somebody's angry. Oh dear. Let's see. Bear with me, guys. Hold on just a second. I'm trying to make sure that that the video is up. Okay, all right, I'm seeing the video. Here we go. All right, we will continue. All right, so I've dried this out. Everything is, you know, dry. I might have a few damp spots, but it's okay. So again, we have not established any details right now. We're just working on building up, you know, our base tones, values, and that type of thing. All right, so now I want to kind of get back into this idea of building up some drama. Now, you know, this orange, you know, we've got some shadows and different things that are happening in the flowers. And typically when you're working with orange, you know, we learn to mix blue with orange to deepen that value, and it does. But when you deepen that value, it is also going to give you kind of a muddy, can give you sort of a muddy effect, and we definitely want to keep it vibrant, okay? And so I like to actually push these vibrant values a little bit darker by just using, you know, darker colors that are still inside the same color family. And let me illustrate that to you. So I'm going to get back into my orange here and a little bit more of this hot pink. And I want to kind of accentuate a little bit more of this vibrant orange, okay? I'm coming back in on top of this layer, and I'm going to, looking at my photo reference, and I'm just kind of creating like almost a glaze. And if you see how vivid that orange is. Now, this color that I just mixed, it's really a super hot pink with a little bit of orange in it, but because I'm layering it over the top of this orange that we previously created, I'm getting a much more vibrant orange. Let me hold it up. You can see how nice and vibrant. Now, if I had just started with this on just white paper, I would not get quite the same effect. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and start building and layering this nice, vibrant, hot pink, sort of, you know, it's mostly hot pink, but I'm layering it over the first layer of orange, and it just makes it sing. We'll get into some shadows here in just a little bit, where I'm going to also mix a similar color, but it's going to be an even darker but still vivid orange. So look at that already. Look at the comparison between these and the ones that we have over here. You start to see the drama, okay? Still vibrant, still vibrant. But again, we're kind of layering pink over the top of this. It's predominantly pink, but it really makes a huge, huge difference. All right, so I'm just kind of coming in. I'm being a little bit more careful. You know, I don't have a wet background anymore. This is kind of just layering right over the top. But because we had all of that orange sneaking out around the edge earlier, we've kind of got this nice transition from really foreground to background by having those transitional colors already built in, so that they don't look like they were just sort of cut out and pasted. That's one of the reasons that I really enjoy building up my colors a little bit gradually over time. There's some patience involved, but you get those nice gradients and all those transitional colors that you normally would not be getting. All right, so continuing to work with this color to overlay this orange, and the poppies are just so bright. I love it. And again, if you need some more, just mix it up. Gonna come back in here, looking at my reference photo, sort of keeping up with where I am here. All right, just layering over. Look how vivid. It's just incredible. If we'll just take the time to layer up these colors, you can come up with something a little bit more vivid than just laying down one solid layer at a time. It really makes a difference. And I'm just focusing on the poppies right now. I did stay away from the centers, as you can see. I'm going to kind of address that here in just a little bit. And then, you know, the little poppies that are kind of out there, sort of in the background, you know, maybe the ones that are closer, I might give them a little brush of orange, but I'm not going to overdo it. Okay, this time I'm going to get into my Hansa yellow, and I'm going to come right in here with some yellow and just sort of blend it in right there. See how we're keeping it nice and vibrant? I'm just plopping it right on the top there and letting it kind of blend in. Not overthinking, not overworking, just kind of lay it in there. Let's see, maybe, I know that there's not really a yellow center quite visible with this one poppy. Let's see, let me get my picture back here. Well, maybe there is. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in there. Maybe a little bit right there. And look what begins to happen when you just let the color sit for a minute. See the yellow just kind of streaking and making its way into the orange. Just, you know, let the painting kind of paint itself along with you for a little while. Be patient. Watch and see what's going to happen. All right, now while that is kind of sitting, I'm going to get into some of this. This was some of that green that was left over on my palette, sort of a yellowish green. I'm going to get a little bit of my green gold into it. I want this to be a little bit brighter. We've got kind of a medium sort of green that's not too vivid, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start layering and working this over. I'm not getting into my reds though, or you know, my oranges. I'm staying clear, going around, but I'm kind of making sure to come in and cover up some of these little white spots and spaces. Here and there. Just a few little things here and there. There we go. All right, so I'm going to let my poppies sit, and then I'm going to spend some time back in the background again, working with a few darker colors. So I'm getting into my rare green earth again, like I had yesterday. And again, that was, if you need to mix that, it was your ultramarine and some of your Hansa yellow or cad yellow if you've got it, and then just a tiny little bits of your yellow. Just kind of gently add that yellow into it. But I'm going to use this, and I'm just kind of squinting at my photo reference and looking for places where I can see that I need some darker green to just sort of fit in here, and I'm just tucking it in wherever I am kind of seeing it in my photo reference here. I'm not going as dark as the darkest value yet, but I will. I will ultimately be doing that. So I'm just getting some darks in here. And you can be kind of playful with this. You know, this is not, I'm not working really hard to be photo accurate. I'm really just thinking about it in terms of, you know, composition, of just getting some nice shapes in here visually that are telling the story of all of these little stems and grasses and whatnots. And there's even some sections up here that I'm almost going to just allow them to be kind of dark patches of green, because if you kind of look at your photo, you know, there's just these little patches of green that are, it's kind of nondescript, don't really know exactly what's going on, and we don't have to. We can just kind of go with it and emulate some of those colors. This is the Rare Green Earth, kind of at a little bit more full strength. I'm just getting it dark right in there. I'm just seeing where it's a little bit darker right around that poppy. I kind of liked that contrast. And I'm going to keep using this Rare Green Earth to go around and find some more little pockets of space that could use some dark in the background. And I'm not afraid to kind of just get the color in here, because these are very sort of amorphic shapes that are going on back here. And I'm just getting the colors in here, and then I'll worry and fiddle with moving them around a little bit more after the fact. Just kind of laying that color in there, and then just with some clear water on my brush, now I can kind of come in and play with it and move that color around a little bit. Kind of smudging and moving it. Even doing a little bit of negative painting here and there around some of the flowers. I'm still being careful to not take the green and swipe it over my orange poppies though. All right, just with some water on my brush, just kind of smoothing and softening some of these shapes, because I do want them to be kind of blurry, but it's okay if they are kind of unusual. We don't really know what the shapes are. We're trying to emulate that background that's blurry back there. See how we got a lot of stuff going on? It almost looks like a little collage in that corner. See all the different little shapes? Just let them be there. They can be very nondescript. We don't really know what they are, and that's okay. I'm coming back in here, and this is some of that serpentine green. I'm using that to kind of grab some of these poppy stems again. Remember, I put that black in there earlier, but when I come back in here and add some green on top of it, I can still see some of the black, but the green is kind of, being allowed to sort of have its place on top of the black. Being very, very free here. All right, let me dry what I have, because I want to continue building some more visual textures. Oh, let's see, before I do, I am going to use my little quill pen to just make some marks. There are some different sort of, stems and things that I can kind of draw in here, because, when I bruise the paper, it will let me kind of have some different marks. And so you can use the side of a credit card, you can use your quill pen, you can use kind of whatever you would like to come in here and just make some shapes. I'm trying to, these are not really like super fine lines. I'm trying to sort of put it on the edge so that I get like a sort of a wide, you can see that little wide streak that I made, which looks really nice and almost like a blade of grass or a stem, some sort of shape that would definitely be in here. I'm just going to keep kind of looking back and forth at my photo reference for some different things to sort of give me some clues for some shapes that I can make. It becomes a very sort of intuitive process, you know, the more you kind of start working in this way. And then, you know, I'm busy talking too, so when you're in your quiet place, when you're just in your head and you've got the paints going, you can kind of start to see and think a little bit more. So I don't want anybody to, don't overwhelm yourself with too much thought about, this is not my best painting. It doesn't have to be. You know, those they tend to come later after you've had some time to kind of play with a new technique or a new thought process. You have to kind of let it be born. It just sort of takes a little time. All right, so I'm just playing and adding almost like little grasses and shapes. You could even, you know, you can even just like use your fingernail if you wanted to. See, I just use my fingernail, kind of make some different sort of shapes in here. Just kind of playing almost. I don't want to overdo. Okay, all right, I think that's what I'm going to do for right now. Let me dry this, and then we can start adding some more defining details and some darker values. Okay. All right, I discovered why it took me so long to dry that last one. The heat was not on, so I was drying it with sort of cold air almost the whole time. That's why it didn't work. Okay, so now we've got this dry, and now is the time to really start coming back in and looking at, you know, adding all the darks, everything that's going to start adding the drama. Okay, so I want to start working on the flowers. Okay, so here's the part that we've been talking about from the beginning, is getting these shadows in, you know, but without getting a dull color. And I really want to stress this, and in fact, I'm just going to show you the difference it makes. So if I'm going to start with, you know, my dark color, I'm going to mix up my orange first and a little bit of the pink. You know, so here's that nice vibrant pink that's going to be my foundation for creating, you know, the darks. Okay, well, you know, in color mixing, you know, we do learn that we should add a little bit of blue to the orange to get it dark. And it is getting it dark, but if you notice, it's pushing it down in chroma just over and over. And now we've got this dull, it's no longer luminous anymore. It is darker, but it doesn't give us what we want. This is not what we want. And this is what happens if you've ever painted a rose and you've got this beautiful red rose, and then you start mixing some greens in with your red, and then you wind up with this terrible, you know, eggplant brown kind of color that's it's all wrong. And you can tell that the rose, you're looking right at it, you know it's very vibrant. We've got to actually use something that's in the same color spectrum, but just a little bit deeper value right out of the tube. So I'm getting back to that orange pink mixture. Okay, this is going to be my foundation again. I used it as my overlay color for, you know, the first round here, but I'm also going to use it as a foundation for my darker color. Now I've got a color on my palette called Alizarin Crimson, and many of you are probably familiar with that. And look what happens when I add Alizarin Crimson. I'm getting dark, but it's staying vivid. I should have left the other color on the palette, but the other one, it was just brown. This is still vivid, and then I can continue to add some more pink into it to revitalize and to reconstitute that really vivid tone. Another color that I can also add is some of my violet. This is Dioxazine Violet. I can add that color into it. See how it pushes it down the spectrum, but it's still vibrant. It's not that chocolate brown sort of color. So I've got this nice dark, you know, that I can kind of come in. I've got a couple of colors here that I can use. I'm going to put some more of this Alizarin Crimson into this one, a little bit more pink, a little bit more orange. And then I can even get some of my Quinn Gold into the mix. Anything that I can use that's vibrant to begin with, I can deepen any vibrant color as long as I deepen it with a vibrant color. And I tend to use, with my reds and oranges in particular, they are the ones that can get so dull when we put those blues or when we put those greens into it, they get really dull. Now that's fine if we're painting the side, you know, the shadow side of a barn maybe. That's fine. We need that deep color, but for flowers especially, we need to really make sure that we're staying as vibrant as we can. So I've got a couple of little, you know, like a medium and a dark here. All right, so I'm going to jump into my painting again, and I'm just looking carefully at my painting here, or my photo reference, and I'm going to start dropping in some shadows. I'm looking and seeing that this little blossom is casting a shadow to the underside, and putting this little flower into shadow, and just going to kind of work my way around. I don't want to get fussy and precious and busy with this. I want to just lay those shadows in and then move on to the next one. Keep it nice and loose. Simple, easy strokes. Let's see. See how that shadow color still sings? It's still part of the flower. It's not like this suddenly we've got this weird burnt non-vibrant. This is still luminous. It's still giving us that quality, you know, that petal. It's so delicate, so soft, and we don't want to lose that. We want to keep that. And yeah, the underside of this one especially is really dark. And I kind of made up this flower that's right here, so it's gonna have a little shadow on its little underside as well. Now I'm kind of just going through sort of quickly because I don't want to overthink. I want to just, you know, allow myself to look quickly. Yes, there's a mark. There's a shadow. There's another one. When we tend to overthink, we start getting precious and then overworked, and all those things start kind of happening, and we lose our place in the flower or in the painting. And then this little guy, he didn't even exist until just a few minutes ago, but I'm going to guess that there's a little bit of shadow down on this side and maybe up under here because maybe this flower is casting a shadow onto this one. All right, so see how I kind of went through real quickly, but now I've got just a damp brush, and so I'm coming back in to just kind of soften some of these edges a little bit. Again, I don't want to overwork. Some of the edges can be hard, some of them can be soft. If I start moving paint around, just clear out the brush a little bit. I'm not trying to diminish these lines at all. Some of them need to be softened a little bit. Some of them it's not quite as important. But look at you can start to see the depth. You can start to see we're turning form, as the masters would say. We're starting to see a little bit of three-dimensional quality happening here. I'm even just kind of scrubbing a little bit. All right, now I'm going to take my little rigger. I'm getting it into this mixture. This is a perfect color for me to kind of come in and start. I don't have quite enough paint. Let me mix up some more paint. Same color though. It's my orange, my hot pink, my alizarin crimson, and I'm satisfied with that. I don't want to get darker than that right now. I'm going to get a little bit darker in just a minute, but not quite yet. So I'm going to use this to kind of come in, just sort of looking at my photo reference, and I can see that there's these little rills and undulations happening in the petals in a few places. I want to capture some of that. But again, this is not an opportunity to find every single one. I want to just emulate and sort of suggest, create the notion that these are in here, but without going overboard. We've got Americans and Canadians in here, and sometimes when you know the language, the idioms that we each have, they can be a little bit different. But you know, in the South, we'll say, you know, you can wear out your welcome, and that means when you've stayed too long in a place, everybody's really kind of secretly ready for you to leave, but they're being polite, not saying anything. And we kind of do that in our paintings too. We can just spend a little bit too much time in a place, and then before you know it, we've kind of ruined it. So keep the visit and each of your little sections of your painting short and sweet and polite, and that makes you a lot more fun company, right? All right, so I'm going to just very quickly, gently work some of these little shapes in. Like I said, I don't want to overdo it because it's easy to do. Remember that the whole painting is happening at the same time. Skip around, move around, jump around, stay active with it. I'm just kind of going by what I'm seeing in the photo, but I'm also trying to be careful at not overdoing and keeping everything just sort of fresh and loose. I don't want this to get out of hand. But look at all the shadows that we have that have not gotten too dark. Now, I am going to get a little bit darker now. I'm adding violet into this. And it's not quite purple, but it's a really deep version of this orange where I can kind of take this and come in, not everywhere, but there's going to be, I can even get darker. Push that a good bit. So now we're down into this purplish tone, but it's still in this same reddish orange color family. And see how I can kind of still keep building some value on top of these things, but only in the places where it needs to go, because this dark value isn't everywhere. It's just in a few select places. Just in a few places. That's the thing with the darks. When you get ready to start, I like to call it chasing the values. You know, you kind of start out and they're a little bit everywhere. And you start looking for those, you know, the darker ones that you see. And then as you keep going, you keep seeing darker and darker ones as you go. I'm just using this same purple. I know it's not the color of the stems, but again, it's about the value. I need that dark value, but it doesn't have to be green. It doesn't have to be green. Now I'm going to get into I'm going to let the poppies kind of sit for a minute. I'm going to get into some green. This is that Serpentine Genuine again. But I'm going to add some of my ultramarine to it. See, I pushed it really dark. Here's another, you know, the green, you know, I could add some red to it to make it darker, but it's going to deaden it. So just find a darker color in the same side of the color wheel, okay, in the same side of the color wheel. It's really kind of theoretically what's happening. That allows me to push it a little bit darker, but without losing all my vibrancy. So just like I chased dark values in all of the orange, now I'm going to start chasing dark values in my greens. And I'm going to do this by looking at my photo reference here and coming in and finding some places that are dark. And I'm going to use kind of a negative painting technique here. And if you notice, see, I just created these little odd shapes. Let me hold it up. See that? And it looks like there's little stems kind of hiding. Okay, the way that I did that, I've got all of these little marks that I made earlier, and they're in my paper, and they kind of serve as a little road map for me to just create these interesting little shapes. I don't really have to think about it. They're presented to me. And so I'm just filling in some of these odd little shapes, going around them, and it instantly gives me sort of this little track to follow to create some negative painting. And if you've followed some folks, you know, online long enough or been painting long enough, you've learned some things about negative painting or seen it done, and it brings a lot of sophistication and character and visual texture into your work that's just lovely. And again, it points to the building up of layers to just create a lot of drama and magic, and it just works every single time. Now, there's a lot of drama that can be had, you know, just with single colors. We've all experienced that too, you know, taking time to experiment with our colors in such a way that we might, you know, especially those, for all my Canadians out there, I did get that Rockwell set of magic colors, and oh my goodness, you can do just amazing things with just those few colors, just allowing those colors to kind of just do whatever they want to do all over the page, and they create some instant drama. But it is possible for us to, you know, go to some more links to create a little bit of drama by layering our more simplistic colors to create some drama as well. And again, it becomes easy for me to make this up because I'm just following the shapes that are kind of already there. They're just kind of in there. I didn't really have to go find them. I'm going to do some of the same thing over here. Got a lot of that dark color kind of hiding out underneath this little poppy over here. And I've already got these sort of naturally occurring shapes from all my little scratching that I did earlier. And it kind of defines little spots for me to create little shapes. They're already there for me. I don't even have to think about it too much. I'm kind of being intentional about going around the stems. See, I didn't cover up that stem right there. I kind of painted around it. Okay, I'm running out of color. Let me get some more mixed up. My serpentine green, my ultramarine. All right, and then I'll kind of keep going here. You know, and down in these, you know, anytime we're painting something, especially florals, or if you've tried to work with like painting, you know, brambles or briars or anything like that, there's all of these just fantastic, incredible, hidden, mysterious little shapes everywhere. And they're just beautiful and fun to work with. I'm going to bring some of that dark color on out up into here, but I'm going to let that, I'm just wetting my brush. I'm going to let that kind of sort of blend out. I like the idea of keeping it kind of light in this sort of middle area. There's a lot of nice things happening in there. I don't want to cover it up. I can even take some of this purple that I had and kind of go along the edge. I'm doing this just to kind of blend a little bit so I don't have too harsh of an edge. Sometimes I want to have, you know, a nice bright contrast, but sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a blurry edge. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of keep adding some more little streaks in here. I'm just kind of playing and having fun at this point. Let's see, there's some more darks right in here. And I'm keeping all the darks low, okay? I'm not going to bring them up into the top portion of the painting because That's really not what's going on up in the top half. We want to sort of keep that nice glow, you know, because everything is sort of emerging out of the dense growth, but coming into the light. So I'm going to get my little guy here, and I'm going to use this to make a few dark marks coming up out. I'll skip over my poppy in a couple of places. And I can even get some of my gold, my Quin Gold, just to have a few lighter kind of lines coming up in places. This is all very subjective here at this point. And then I might even take my spritz bottle and just kind of do a little spritz to soften some of these lines. See how I can spritz that, and they sort of, see how they'll fuzz out a little bit and just be a little bit softer. Oh, I'm trying to get it into the camera. There we go. See how all of that's just kind of running and bleeding together? That's kind of exciting, and gives me a little bit of visual interest there. Let's see if I've got anything else that I want to try to do here. I kind of like the idea of coming in here with, yeah, I think I will. This is some just really bright red. This is Winsor red, actually. I'm just going to risk a little bit. Now this red, it's not a dark value, but it's kind of a medium value, but there may be places in my poppies where I could just put a little punch of it, and the Winsor red's also got a little bit of opacity to it. And I kind of like the idea of coming in here and maybe adding it just in a few places, just for some intensity, a little bit of medium value. And then just with my wet brush, a damp brush, I'm going to kind of come in here and I'm just going to move it around a little bit in a couple of places. See, it's got some opacity. It's kind of covering up a little bit. I don't want to overdo. I don't want to lose any of my bright oranges. I still think I need to soften that shadow just a little bit. There we go. I know it's a hard line in the photo, but when I put it in my painting that way, it kind of, I think that just communicates a little bit better, because my overall, you know, work here is a lot softer. There we go. Oops. Now there's a few spots. I think I'm seeing this. This is my green gold. And I'm going to risk just a little bit. I think I'm going to risk a little bit. Let's just try it. I see a little bit of green kind of happening in some of these little blossoms. You know, I don't really understand or know exactly what sort of biologically is going on with the with the flower right here, I'm just seeing that color, and I think I might add it just for a little visual interest there. And oh, I'm going to do this. I see a little spot that I want to just do something a little bit different. This is my little scrubbing brush that I use to kind of lift. I'm just rubbing this and wiping my brush off. That was some yellow that I had earlier. I'm just revitalizing it. I'm going to go through my painting and find a few little spots where I want to just lift, where some of that yellow is living underneath. And it's almost acting like little highlights, if you want to think about it that way. There we go. And I'm not going to go crazy with this, but just a little lifting. That's one of the great things about, you know, once you've layered up, you can do some lifting. It's a little bit harder to do if you've just got single layers. Colors kind of don't want to move around quite so much. But with layers, you got a little bit of wiggle room there to kind of manipulate. Okay, I don't want to overdo. Okay. All right, I think that might be it. Let me draw what I've got here. I saw something that I want to do right quick while this is all still a little bit wet. Remember how we did the vignette? I'm seeing a need for just a little color shift. These stems, you know, they're meant to be kind of tucked away in the dark parts of the all this growth of stems and leaves, but they are a little bit vivid, so I think I want to tone that down. Let me sort of mop up some of this color right here. One thing about having a little palette, I mean, it works well for being able to show the whole palette when I'm painting, but you kind of run out of mixing space pretty quick. I like using a John Pike palette when I'm just painting on my own. Got that huge big mixing area. But what I want to do is come in here kind of with a cool vignette, and I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it with my my Rare Green Earth, and a little bit of this. There's some green that was sort of in my blue, in my ultramarine blue, so but it's okay. I'm just kind of going for a bluish, greenish, oops, wrong, a bluish, greenish gray. I want it to be a cool color. There we go. And it's not too dark, but I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to lay it in here. See how it kind of just pushed elements to the background. There's little sections of it. I'm not even gonna try to worry about blending or anything. I like that angular quality to it. Okay, now I'm gonna draw. Okay. For my members, I know that they know what I'm doing. I start thinking while I'm blow drying and seeing things. I just picked up on this idea of coming in here with